There's a line by Arthur Schopenhauer that has always stuck with me, and the line is this. So he wrote, "There is some wisdom in taking a gloomy view, in looking upon the world as a kind of hell, and in confining one's efforts to securing a small room that shall not be exposed to the fire." So I don't know about you, but I personally, I believe that there is certain wisdom in treating the world like it's a burning building, and you're just trying to find a small room within that building that hasn't caught fire yet. And that's basically Schopenhauer's starting point. Most of what you've been fed your whole life is the opposite. You've been fed that everything happens for a reason, and that the universe has a plan for you, and that God has a plan for you, and that things, they just work out in the end. Okay? Well, Schopenhauer, he looked around and he went, have you actually seen the world? Have you actually seen it? Have you watched animals eat each other alive? Huh? Have you sat with someone slowly dying? Have you watched people sabotage their lives on repeat? I mean, where is this plan you keep talking about? He was, this is what I respect about him, is that he was doing what almost nobody does. He was taking reality at face value and refusing to sugarcoat it. And that is precisely what drew me to him. And that's precisely what drew Nietzsche and Jung to him as well. Here, picture this, okay? All right, you're young. You're smart. You're looking for answers, and all of these so-called wise adults around you are basically just telling you fairy tales and bedtime stories. But then you find this guy over here, right, who says, no, that you're not crazy. Life really is soaked in pain. So let's start from there, shall we? That's Schopenhauer. And the more that you really look at life, like really look at it, the harder it is to dismiss him. He basically asks one brutal question, which is, if this is a good world made by a good force who wants good things for you, why does almost everything that lives suffer, struggle, and die in fear or confusion? Most people never touch that question. They can't. They patch over it with religion or spirituality or positive thinking. Because guess what? The alternative terrifies them. That's why. But unlike them, Schopenhauer, he walked straight into the alternative. He said, look at what everything in nature actually does, not what you wish it did. Everything that exists is driven to push forward, to survive, to reproduce, to stay here a little longer and make more copies of itself. A plant fights its way toward the light. An animal hunts, runs, breeds, defends. Humans, they grind for money, status, sex, approval, comfort. Yeah, you can dress it up in poetic language and call it purpose or calling. But at the core, it's all the same motion. Pushing, striving, clinging, wanting. Schopenhauer called that thing the will. Not willpower, not free will, just will. That raw drive underneath everything. He said that drive is blind. It's not wise. It's not moral. It's not steering you towards some perfect happy ending. It doesn't care if you're fulfilled. It just cares that you keep going. That's exactly why you can get everything you thought you wanted and still feel empty. That's why people who have it all, they still spiral. That's why every time that you hit a goal, that satisfaction, it fades, and then something else immediately starts gnawing at you, taking its place, and then the cycle repeats. And you think you're climbing towards some stable place where it finally makes sense and you'll be at peace. Well, guess what? The will doesn't care about peace. The will cares about motion. That's it. So your life, it becomes this endless pattern of I want, I suffer until I get it, then I get it. There's a tiny spike of relief. Then boredom sets in, and then anxiety, and then guess what? A new want. And then you repeat until you die. I mean, if you've ever wondered why even good seasons in your life have that weird low-level unease underneath them. This is why you're built to be restless and to chase and to feel like something is missing. That's not a glitch. That's a factory setting, okay? And Schopenhauer, he doesn't let you wiggle out of it with saying things like, well, but humans are different. He's like, no, you're not different. You're just an animal with self-awareness, okay? You're the same basic machine, but with the added curse of being able to watch yourself suffer and know exactly what's happening. That's exactly why the human life feels uniquely brutal, because you're not just in pain. You can think about the pain. You can think about the fact that you're going to die someday. You can look at your patterns and see yourself repeating them, even when you're smart enough to know better. And the worst part is that there is no final win state where the striving stops on its own. There isn't. Your body quits before your wanting does. That's how it works. That's how desire works. You want something, so you hurt, and then you get it, and then the hurt stops for a moment, and then your brain calls that happiness, but it's not happiness. It's just the pain shutting off for a bit. And as soon as that pain stops, another one boots up to take its place. Like I said, a new goal, a new fear, a new itch, a new insecurity, whatever it is. It's like taking off tight shoes, right? The first moment, it feels incredible. But the only reason it feels incredible is because your feet were being crushed for so long. Most of what we call joy in life is just taking off tight shoes that we ourselves laced. And the will loves that. It loves that because while you're chasing hits of relief, you don't question the game. And then now you layer ego on top of that. And Schopenhauer, he says that every living thing, it acts like it's the center of reality, right? From the plant that's trying to hog light to the guy that's trying to win status, everything, it behaves like its own survival is more important than anything else in the world, and in a world with finite resources. And so, with limited food and limited territory and mates and attention, that means conflict. Everything is feeding on something. Everything is in competition with something. Everything that lives is either eating, being eaten, or waiting its turn. And we like to pretend that humans escaped that logic because we invented grocery stores. But scratch the surface and you still get the same thing. People using each other, resenting each other, stepping on each other, competing and judging and grabbing as much as they can while they're here. You don't need to be a philosopher to see it. You just look around, okay? Just use your eyes. We live in a world where a blind, aimless drive to exist keeps spitting out life forms, and those life forms are wired to want and to grasp and to cling, and they grind their entire lives for these short bursts of relief, and they maul each other in the process, and then they die. And we call this a good world because we're afraid of admitting what it really is, what it actually is. Well, Schopenhauer, he called it what it actually is. He said that the world is hell, and men, on the one hand, the tormented souls, and on the other, the devils in it. And he didn't mean, devils with pitchforks and flames, but with constant low-level torture. Aging, sickness, humiliation, heartbreak, boredom, anxiety, panic, loss, regret, with tiny breaks of pleasure in between. Just enough to keep you from quitting early. That's his pessimism. He wasn't saying that everything sucks, so why bother? He was saying that everything hurts a lot more than anyone wants to admit. So let's just drop the act, drop the fairy tales, and deal with it. Let's have that be the starting point. So the obvious question is, well, then what? What do we do with that? If life is this endless treadmill of wanting and suffering, is there even a way off of it? As long as you, here's the thing, as long as you are completely identified with your wanting, and as long as you believe every impulse and you chase every craving and build your entire life around pursuing more, you are signing up for a lifetime subscription of pain. Now, Schopenhauer, he wasn't saying be more positive or manifest better outcomes. He was saying you have to stop feeding the machine. He noticed something that you've probably felt in your own life. You've definitely felt in your own life, because here's the thing. There are rare moments where just for a second, you're not thinking about what you want next. You're not replaying the past, and you're not negotiating with the future. You're just there, right? It could be staring at the ocean. It could be listening to a song that stops time. It could be getting lost in a painting or a book, or a view out of the window, right? It could be having a conversation with someone that is so real that the rest of the room disappears entirely. In those moments, in those beautiful moments, you're not calculating and you're not scheming. You're not trying to squeeze life for more. You're just aware and you're present. And the wanting, it dials down. And he called that aesthetic experience. Not in the Instagram sense, in the literal sense of perceiving something so fully that you forget yourself for a second. And he said those exact moments right there are the only times that you get a break from the will. That's the only time you get a reprieve. It's not happiness. It's not high. It's a pause. Those are the few moments where you're not being yanked around by your own mind. And for most people, those are accidents. You stumble into them. They're extemporaneous, but then you go right back to the chasing. Now, Schopenhauer, he turns it into a path, and the path is of, like, what if you made your life less about piling up experiences and more about loosening the grip your wants have on you? I mean, he takes it all the way to asceticism. Minimum possessions and basically being a monk. Simple food, detachment from status. And not like that. It's not the. I'm not talking about minimalism here. It's not minimalism. It's the act of starving the will so that you can be less tortured by it. You stop signing new contracts with desire. You let just some of them expire. And I know that a lot of people hear that and they would say, yeah, no, I still want things. Yeah, me too. I get it. I do. I mean, even Carl Jung, he basically said that he agreed with Schopenhauer's diagnosis, but he just didn't buy the solution, because the thing is that most of us are not built to fully opt out of life. We're not. I mean, we're not trying to become saints. We want to say yes to life with open eyes and not crawl into a cave. But here's the thing. There's a middle space between blind optimism and total renunciation, and that is exactly where pessimism actually becomes useful. Yes, pessimism can be useful, despite what you've been told. Because here's the thing, when you drop the fantasy that life is supposed to be smooth and fair and fulfilling if you just do it the right way, two things happen. The first thing is that you stop taking suffering so personally. Things stop feeling like glitches and they start feeling like they are, which is just the default. And of course, there's struggle. Your mind is restless. Your relationships are complicated. Yes, you're not cursed. You're just awake. Okay. And the second thing that happens is which is I think is very important, is that you become harder to manipulate. If you know the will is always going to throw new cravings at you, you stop believing the marketing campaign that says that this is the next this next thing will fix me. This next thing will finally make me enough. And yeah, you still might chase some of it. Of course, you're human, but you will do it with your eyes open this time. You won't confuse a hit of relief for a permanent solution. A pessimistic baseline, it makes you less gullible. And it makes you less shocked when life hits you hard. It makes you less fragile. It does. It's like walking through life in a storm with a jacket on versus walking out with just a t-shirt and then bitching because the forecast said it was supposed to be sunny. Well, guess what, dude? The storm doesn't care about your forecast, okay? Expectation that life will be painful, it makes you more grounded and more capable and more peaceful, I would say, than a person who insists that everything must feel good all the time. Because the reason being is that you're not negotiating with reality. You're not arguing with every hard thing that happens. You're not constantly lamenting that this shouldn't be like this. You're able to say, well, yeah, of course it's like this. Of course it is. Now what do I do? And that doesn't mean enjoy everything. It doesn't mean lie to yourself and pretend you're grateful for every bad moment. All it means is that you stop being surprised by things that are baked into the structure of life. I mean, yeah. Schopenhauer, he went all the way to this place is basically hell, and the best move is to minimize your desires and minimize your footprint and quietly check out of the game while your body is still here. And you don't have to follow him that far to use his insights, okay? You don't have to drop your relationships, okay? You can keep those, you can keep your goals, your work, your art, whatever, your effort. You just stop expecting any of it to permanently fix the ache. You eat good food knowing the satisfaction will fade, right? You fall in love knowing there will be misunderstanding and pain inside that, right? You create things knowing that their impact will be minuscule on the scale of the universe and temporary even here. And you do them anyway. And it's not because you believe that it all adds up to some neat story, but because that this is the position that you're dropped into. The position of being conscious and wanting immortal. And within that position, you still have small pockets of control. You can choose where you point your attention. You can choose what wants you constantly feed. And you can also choose which wants you let starve. You can choose how honest you're willing to be about the nature of this place. You don't have to be a cheerleader for life to keep going, okay? You don't have to lie to yourself and call this world something it's not, okay? You can say that this is rough and this is unfair and this is painful and I'm still here. So how do I move through it without being eaten alive by my own expectations? That's the real wisdom of pessimism. That is the real wisdom of a pessimist. And it's not collapsing and giving up. It's not blackpilling yourself into paralysis. It's not. Just refusing to be the guy who keeps putting his hand on the stove and saying, one of these times it won't burn. Schopenhauer's gift is permission to stop being shocked that the stove is hot. Once you accept that, you finally get to decide how you're going to live in a house that's on fire without pretending it's not. And weirdly, that acceptance can feel more peaceful than all the fake optimism in the world.